What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be reviewing and showing you how to play the board game Force. This game came out in 1978 from the Invictus Corporation, and it is for 2 players. Now, the company that made this game is the same company that made the game Mastermind, which you have probably heard of. The object of this particular game is you are going to be trying to get 2 of your warp bands in a straight line, horizontally and vertically, without them touching any of these pegs on the board. In the beginning of the game, you're going to be placing the pegs, and your opponent's going to be doing that, and then you are going to be wrapping your opponent's warp bands around these pegs, and he's going to be doing the same thing, and then the gameplay will start. So let us go ahead and show you the game Force. Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and show you the components real quick. Right here you have your game board, and what you'll notice is that there are holes here, and there's a whole bunch of different little symbols over here. You got a moon, a circle, a cross, etc. And I'll talk about how these symbols work here in just a little bit. Right here you have what are called your warp bands, and these are basically just like some rubber bands that stretch out. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be attaching these vertically and horizontally across the board. And here's the red side right here, these bands. Right here you have your pegs. Each person is going to be receiving 6 pegs, and there are 2 spare pegs that each player is going to be using. They're each going to be using one of the pegs. And basically here's the way the game works. In the beginning, everybody's going to alternate placing pegs here on the board, and they can place these pegs anywhere. So let's just say player 1 decides he's going to place a peg here, player 2 places one here, etc. Player 1 once again goes just somewhere, and ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to place the pegs in a way to where they're going to be wrapping around your opponent's bands as much as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and just set this up, and we'll go ahead and continue on. Okay, so now I've got the pegs set up, and now we're going to go ahead and place the bands. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to go ahead and place my opponent's band on the board here, and he's going to do the same with mine. And the way you do it is you're just going to attach the one end of the band here to one of these slots over here. Let's just say I pick this. And then you're just going to start wrapping this band around as many of these pegs as you possibly can. And you can just kind of do it however you want. So let's just say I did something like that. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to attach it to the bottom of the board over here like so. Or if you want, you can just attach it to these 2 things either way. But we usually just do it on the bottom of the board because that's kind of the way the box looks. So you just place that like that. And then my opponent will go ahead and do the same with my red band. And let's just say he decides he's going to do something like this. He'll wrap mine here, and then 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 he'll attach it to the bottom again, like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and place one of my opponent's bands vertically on the board, and he'll do mine horizontally. And I'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll go ahead and show you how the gameplay works. Okay, so I went ahead and we've got the board set up over here. And the object of the game is you're going to be trying to get your bands in a straight line vertically and horizontally without them touching any of the pegs. Now what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to basically pick one of these pegs to move, and then you're going to look at the symbol that is underneath it. Let's say I wanted to remove this one. It's a picture of Saturn. What I will then do is I will place a spare peg on a Saturn symbol. It'll basically match the one that I removed. So let's just say I decide to place it somewhere over here since it's kind of close to my opponent. And as you can see, this is touching him now, so that's a bad thing for him. So then I will go ahead and remove this peg, and now you will see that I have a little bit more of a straight line. And that's basically how it works. So now let's say my opponent decides to go, and let's say he wants to remove this one because this is touching a bunch of his bands, and there's a Saturn over here. So he'll take the spare peg and pick a Saturn somewhere as well. And let's just say he picks this one. There's a Saturn. And so he will go ahead and remove this one, and the bands are going to go ahead and change up a little bit, as you can see. So then it goes back to me, and let's just go ahead and say I decide I'm going to do this one, move this one, and there's a cross symbol over here. So I'll go ahead and place a peg on a cross symbol somewhere. Let's just say I place it over here, and it's going to be touching him, and then I will go ahead and remove this like so. So as you can see, this is starting to become more vertical, and I'm ultimately trying to get this to where it's not going to be touching any pegs. So it will kind of look like this. And ultimately, I want to be able to get something that looks like this. It's not touching any of the pegs, and once you get a band that looks like this, your opponent's not going to be able to do anything with it since it's already been resolved. And then the only other thing I'll have to do is to try to do the same thing with this band. So anyway, that's kind of how the game works. You're just going to be taking these pegs off and trying to get your bands to go horizontally and vertically in a straight line. And the winner of the game is going to be the one that can do that without the bands touching any of the pegs. So my final thoughts on the game Force. Well, first of all, this is a game that is very difficult to find on the internet. I could barely find any information on it at all. I think Board Game Geek might have had a little blurb about it, and eBay may have had some sales, but other than that, there is nothing on this game at all, which kind of surprised me, because this is actually a pretty good game. This is a game, again, that I've not seen anything like this before. It's quite interesting what happens when you take out these pegs and the bands start shifting around and they end up hitting other pegs. So a lot of what you have to do in this game is you have to try to figure out where those bands are going to go once they remove the pegs. And not only do you have to do that, but you also have to watch your opponent, because he may be getting really close to getting a straight line. So it's kind of got a little bit of a geometrical aspect to this game, which I think is rather cool. I'm kind of a little bit surprised that this game doesn't have any more information on it, especially since this was made from the same company that made the Mastermind game. It's a small game too, and it's portable, and it doesn't come with a lot of parts, so you can bring this with you if you want to go camping or something like that. It's pretty cool. I like it. This game probably goes for about $20 on eBay, and this is another game my friend Dude McMahon sent me to review. It's kind of funny because he's had some of these games for 30 years that haven't been played, because he told me he couldn't find anyone to play them with, and so he's been sending me these games that I've never heard of that are vintage and old, and I really think it's cool. This is a pretty cool game. I would recommend this game for anybody who likes probably medium strategy games. This game is not hard to learn at all. The instructions is like one page. The components are pretty cool. They're very simple, but I like the way the board works. It has this old school space look to it. It's nothing fancy, but it works fine. I think it looks pretty cool. So guys, that is my review of the Board Game Force. I hope you all have a good day. Keep on gaming.